Fintech is the new finance buzzword, but behind the buzz, they're just lenders on the internet, allowing online applications and loans of up to $500,000, with the funds delivered within one business day. It's a classic case of regulation not keeping pace with technology and taking a light-handed approach to what it terms innovation. It's led to an explosion of what some are calling online loan sharks, accused of stitching up small businesses with interest rates of up to 60%. Now some of the biggest players are moving to self-regulation, which they say will improve standards. This is all that's left of Three-Way Works, a small importing business on the outskirts of Melbourne. Partners Kevin Bond and Mark Ratey say they were turning over $1 million a year supplying parts to the auto industry. Like many businesses, it ran into cash flow troubles.
We had manufacturing issues with some warranty stock that was sent through to us. To protect our database and our obviously our reputation, we had to borrow some money to buy some more stock to keep the supply and demand.
The major banks weren't an option, as they generally don't lend to small businesses.
Banjo is an online lender providing secured and unsecured loans to small business.
We met their criteria in cash flow sense, and they approved $100,000 to us, which we bought more stock and replaced the faulty stock, and then we had to battle with the manufacturer to get that replaced.
But it didn't turn out that way.
Since we got the money, obviously we replaced the faulty stock, we supplied it out, and lo and behold, it was faulty as well. So all the best laid plans in business, as anybody knows, can change in a heartbeat. So we were burnt twice by a manufacturer.
Debts spiralled out of control.
The demands on the payments were weekly, and they were quite steep, as you can imagine. They wanted it paid, 100 grand paid back in 9 months, which when under normal business circumstances was fine, but once we had our second setback with the faulty stock, it just became impossible, which caused this to lead us where we are today.
They tried to negotiate a new repayment plan.
Sent it to their lawyers, and we ended up in court, and the court judgment was that we asked for an extension to pay it. We asked for longer terms to take the term of the loan from 9 months to 5 years, so we could actually put a payment plan in place to pay them back. And it fell on deaf ears, and they just pushed forward and wound us up, closed us down.
There are few protections for small business under the eyes of the law. The National Credit Code doesn't apply to them, so neither do things like responsible lending laws. The lenders themselves don't even have to have financial services licences. And so financial counselling services are getting more and more calls from small business asking for help.
The big concern is that lending to small business is unregulated, and because it's unregulated, it means that anything goes.
The regulatory black hole means fintechs can get away with egregious behaviour. Lender Spotcap, which offers loans of up to $400,000, has punitive clauses in its contracts for dealing with defaults, charging another 2% of the outstanding debt to set up a new payment plan. If that plan doesn't work, it will send in the debt collectors and whack another 20% onto what you already owe, plus all legal costs, plus interest.
The big concern is that lending to small business is unregulated, and because it's unregulated, it means that anything goes. So that means that there are risks that people will be given loans that they can't afford. When they can't afford them, there is no confidence that these companies are going to have decent and fair hardship programs.
The 2017 Telstra New South Wales Medium Business Award winner is Prosper.
Prosper is the biggest online lender in the country. Its attempt at listing on the stock exchange last month allowed rare insight into the business model. Prosper advertises the cost of its loans as a factor rate rather than a simple interest rate plus fees. The prospectus discloses in tiny print that the average interest rate it charges is 41.3%. Prosper's IPO also threw more light on the commissions being paid to accountants and advisors who refer small businesses. Its rival Capify publicises incentives for advisors to push people into bigger loans, the types of incentives that ASIC wants banned. The major players in the industry have realised that regulation could be on its way and has tried to get ahead of the curve. Releasing a code of conduct, it says, outlines a series of best practice principles that will standardise transparency and disclosure. Capify, Get Capital, Moola, On Deck, Prosper and SpotCap are the 6 signatories, along with the Small Business Ombudsman Kate Carnell and another business advocate.
The idea that self-regulation is going to in any way balance the power imbalance out between the borrower and the lender is just farcical.
And this code, is it a code, is it a guidelines? It's not clear within the document, and then the document itself doesn't say how it's going to be regulated, and so there's a lot of missing gaps in it.
Leo Tyndall is in the industry, lining up investors to lend to businesses. He's worried that without proper regulation of fintechs, the cost of funding will continue to rise as more and more businesses get hurt.
I mean, it's clear that there's no obligation on these parties to even consider the hardship. They're just saying, hey, you send us an issue and I can't pay, we'll consider it, but I don't have to do anything about it.
The code says there'll be a code compliance committee that will oversee the implementation of it.
How is it going to have its power? Is it essentially usurping the law itself?
And the question remains as to how open the industry really is to regulation, given Prosper labelled it a significant risk to its bottom line in its prospectus.
It's probably unfair to call it loan sharking, but it would be a very, very fine line